Here's the brief. News from the world over this week. President Donald Trump held his first solo news conference on Thursday, mounting a vigorous defense of his presidency and pushing back against the media in a no-holds-barred style. He pushed back against reports that his West Wing is in disarray. He called those reports false and charged some in the media as being purveyors of fake news, very fake news.
I turn on the TV, open the newspapers, and I see stories of chaos. Chaos. Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine. Tax reform is going to happen fairly quickly. We're doing Obamacare. We're in final stages. We should be submitting the initial plan in March, early March.
On other matters of substance that were upstaged by the hour-long press conference, Trump said that he didn't think his resigned former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, did anything wrong in talking with Russia back in December, but that he did keep info from the vice president, which resulted in his firing. President Trump also announced former National Labor Relations Board member Alexander Acosta would be his nominee for labor secretary. And as more health care providers are opting out of participating in the Affordable Care Act, House Speaker Paul Ryan and Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price met with House Republicans on Thursday to discuss plans to replace the founding health care law. On the chopping block are two pillars of Obamacare: tax penalties for those who choose not to carry insurance, and federal subsidies for state marketplace plans or exchanges. Instead, health savings accounts would be expanded and refundable tax credits would be available to millions of Americans. Medicaid would be transformed via block grants to the states, and Planned Parenthood would be stripped of approximately $500 million a year in federal funding. The GOP powwow came just hours before Congress recessed and after several self-imposed GOP deadlines to repeal and replace Obamacare had come and gone. President Trump announced on Thursday that he will submit his own repeal and replace plan by March. And as North Dakota's governor orders the evacuation of a protest camp near the Dakota Access Pipeline, Pope Francis said he backs the rights of indigenous groups over economic development decisions. He made the comment on Wednesday during a meet and greet with representatives of indigenous people attending a United Nations conference in Rome. Citing a UN declaration, the Holy Father said the right to prior and informed consent should always prevail when economic development interferes with indigenous cultures and their ancestral relationship to the earth. The Cheyenne River and Standing Rock Sioux tribes, backed by environmental activists, are trying to block the construction of the final stretch of the Dakota Access Pipeline. President Trump gave final approval to the project earlier this month. After the Pope's comments, the Vatican press office said he was not making a direct reference to the Dakota Access protest. An evangelical agency working with the UN Refugee Resettlement Program announced a major round of layoffs this week. They are blaming the Trump executive order on immigration that severely reduced the number of refugees admitted into the U.S. World Relief said on Wednesday it would lay off 140 staff members and close 5 offices that have resettled over 25,000 refugees. World Relief is one of 9 U.S. organizations that work with the UN on refugee resettlement. And there are new reports that China and the Vatican have reached a preliminary agreement on the appointment of bishops. Details include the Pope receiving final approval of bishops, but only after a vetting process conducted by the communist regime. Hong Kong Cardinal John Tong said in a recent editorial that he was hopeful that an agreement would be finalized soon. He speculated that the Vatican might recognize government-appointed bishops should China, in turn, recognize underground bishops. However, a top Chinese official is saying otherwise. Cardinal Joseph Zen of Hong Kong will react to all of this news and explain later in the program. And Pope Francis's top advisors rallied to his defense this week in a first. The 9 cardinals from around the world who were appointed by Francis to advise him on running the church went out of their way to make a public show of support for the Pope and his teachings. The Council of Cardinals released a statement pledging its full support for the Pope's work and its adhesion and loyalty to the figure of the Pope and his magisterium. This highly unusual vote of confidence comes at a serious time, a time of tensions at the Vatican, as major concerns are being raised about the direction of papal teaching and curial reform. More on all of this later with the papal posse. And one of the 4 cardinals responsible for questioning the Pope's teaching on divorced and remarried Catholics, Cardinal Raymond Burke, has been sent to Guam to take testimony in a sex abuse trial. Archbishop Anthony Aperon has been accused of abusing a number of young men in the 1970s. When Aperon refused to resign, Pope Francis appointed a coadjutor in October to run the archdiocese. The Vatican confirmed this week that a canonical trial has begun and that Cardinal Burke is the presiding judge. This reassignment was not announced in advance and comes when Cardinal Burke is involved in a struggle with the Vatican over the interpretation of Amoris Laetitia and the Vatican takeover of the Sovereign Order of Malta, of which Burke is the patron. And Pope Francis has appointed a special envoy to Medjugorje. Archbishop Henryk Hoser of Poland has been assigned to Bosnia-Herzegovina, to the town where a number of purported Marian apparitions have occurred since 1981. The Vatican announcement said that the Archbishop is being sent to acquire a deeper knowledge of the pastoral situation. Vatican spokesman Greg Burke said a 2010 to 2014 recent investigation of certain aspects of the Marian apparitions at Medjugorje are a separate matter and still under review. No word on when a decision will be made. And I am so excited. It's only a couple of weeks away, but the sequel to my Will Wilder book for young readers, Will Wilder, The Lost Staff of Wonders, hits bookstores on March 7th. But you can pre-order it now at Amazon.com, EWTNRC.com, Barnes & Noble, or your independent local bookstore. If you pre-order the book or the audiobook, I got one this week, it's really good, send me the receipt or the confirmation of purchase, and I'll send you a signed book plate and a limited edition bookmark. Email me at Raymond@RaymondArroyo.com and write Will Wilder 2 in the subject line. Be sure to include your address, and I will send one of you a copy of the audiobook and the hardcover, 2 for the price of 1, if you retweet or share the message on my Twitter and Facebook pages. So you have to retweet those for a chance to get both the audiobook and the hardback. All the info is at RaymondArroyo.com, and I'll be announcing an amazing contest and tour dates soon. I'll be in Nashville, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Birmingham, Cleveland, Denver. I cannot wait to see all of you.